Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order at 5:06 p.m. here. Sorry about that, I'm just pulling up to this week's agenda. I'm going to go ahead and do our attendance call. I see Evelyn Roan, Alice Williams, ASCW Senate, aka Brady. I also see Jessica Quito, Joy Bryant, Charles Johnson, Keegan Jolly, and Azra Jabber. And with that attendance in mind, I'm going to go ahead and entertain an approval of this week's agenda.
So moved.
Perfect. I see a motion from Evelyn. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Awesome. We've got a second. And let's see. With that in mind, we're going to go ahead and move to approve last week's meeting minutes. Or sorry, I'm entertaining a motion to approve.
So moved.
Perfect. We got a motion by Evelyn.
Seconded.
Awesome. Second by Alice. Let's go. So with that in mind, we'll go ahead and move on to reports. I don't have any reports this week, so we'll go ahead and move on to the advisors.
I don't have much of a report other than I am unofficially here this week. Appreciate you all being patient, as I know Lacey and I were both unexpectedly out at the last one. I will be back full time by the time of our next meeting. And then Lacey will be out for a bit longer than that, but we can give updates. Other than that, I think the only update I have is we did send the recommendations you all made back at the end of fall quarter about the changes to the policy, how we do the fund balances and the salary savings up to our CFO, who has reviewed them and verbally has acknowledged agreement. We're still waiting on his memo back saying, yes, that he has officially approved them before they officially go into place. But I'll give that to you all once we get that back.
Sounds like a plan. Thanks, Joey. All right, perfect. Do we have any more reports from the advisory?
The only other thing is, I said this earlier, but I don't know if everyone, I may have to pop out. And so I apologize because I'm here to help with the annual report, explain what the process looks like. But if I have to run away, I will try and come back. Because again, I'm only unofficially here in the background.
Perfect. No worries, Joey. We appreciate you taking the time tonight. Perfect. Then with that, I will go ahead and move forward to ACWU's reports.
Thank you, Judy. The only report that I have today is I just wanted to share with you all this week. I know we're at the tail end of the week. We're having our CCI open forums from 4 to 5 p.m. every day in the circ pit. So our one today just wrapped up. We do have our last one tomorrow, again from 4 to 5 in the circ pit. They're also being live streamed on our ASW Instagram if you can't attend in person. Just a great chance, excuse me, to come see where we're at in the process. We have Vice President Joel Clucking and then Delano Palmer, who is a project manager for the university, both there in attendance. Delano kind of describing the overall timeline of what the project is and where we're at in that timeline. And then Joel there explaining the bond process and the financial impact for the university and for students. So it's a great chance to kind of come learn about the CCI. And that is it. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Brady. Yeah, that is super important. Thank you for sharing. And yeah, big deal. Perfect. Moving on to communications received. I technically have a communication received from Bjorn. He said he'll be a little late tonight. He's not sure by how much. He has like another conflict going on. Other than that, none on my end. Do we have any communications received from the advisory?
Not that we have seen, unless Jessica has received anything, since both Lacey and I are not at work.
The only other thing is that I received is that Brandon will be gone tonight.
All right, perfect. So that's it for communications received. We'll go ahead and move forward on to public comment. First call for public comment. All righty. Seeing none, I will go ahead and move on to new business. No new business, so I'll go ahead and skip on over to old business. So last week we tasked ourselves with going over the base funding annual reports for administrative support costs and all the different ASCWU offices. So we'll go ahead and jump right into it. Let's see. Jessica, did you want to share the funding reports on your screen, or I'm not sure which would be easiest with the recording and whatnot.
I don't think the recording is going to pick them up because it only picks up the voice of the speaker. But I can bring them up so people can see them if you don't have access on your own.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. If you wouldn't mind, that would be great. Yeah.
Yep.
Else
Yep.
we can't
Just give
have
me a
my
moment.
and whatnot.
All right, Judy, are you seeing them? Oh, give me 1 second. There you go.
Perfect. Yep. Yep. So we'll just go ahead and pop on into administrative support costs there then. Perfect. All right. So the way that we want to go through these is it's really up to the committee. You know, we're all very kind of self-led here. But I was thinking, if y'all want to follow with it, whatever you want to do, really. I was thinking we'll just go over the documents. They're available on the website, and just kind of pull out anything that, anything of note, anything you want to comment on, anything you might have questions about, and then we'll just kind of go through it that way with each document. So Jessica, if you want to just scroll on through, just kind of give people like a, oh, hi, what's up, Joey?
I was just going to add, for those who haven't done this before, as you all are going through this as a group together, pretty much to make note, and some of this is going to be straightforward with these annual reports. Some of them are pretty standard, so not everyone is going to have anything or feedback or responses. But if there are either questions that you all have, concerns that you all see from the information, or feedback that you want to give to the individual units, you want to make sure to note those, and Jessica will keep track of them, because really we then give those to those individual units to say, hey, either like, and with this one, because this is administrative support costs, it would go to Joel and Pat, like, hey, here's the questions that were, or the concern, or feedback is, hey, on next year's annual report, can you please include this, or you included way too much, can you include less, whatever that may be. And so it's really an open discussion, but not all of these are going to be too crazy. Some are pretty straightforward when you go through them, but that's all I want to say.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks, Joey. Appreciate the input there. Yeah. Yeah, like Joey said, just kind of go through anything, you know, if anything's confusing at all, just feel free to ask questions. Hey, go for it, Joey.
I'll say one more thing, and then I may have to sneak off after this. But the one thing I want to say is, just so you all know, the reason we start with these is, one, alphabetically, but two, because ASCW that we're going to go to in a minute is a nice kind of standard one to look at for you all, and it's pretty straightforward. The administrative support cost is always the awkward one, which is why I want to make sure to comment. This one's going to be very different than any of the other funding units that it is, because of what it really is. As you read the form, it goes to a number of administrative supports that support the S&A funded units. And so it's a pretty straightforward dollar figure that goes there. All of it is expended into those individual offices. So that one, if there's more information you all want or things like that, would be good. Otherwise, it's kind of an interesting one. But we start with that one to get it out of the way, and then the ASCW to give you all kind of a taste for what these look like before we go into kind of the little bit more complex ones in later weeks.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you for that, Joey. Yep. So like Joey said, this one's going to be different from the rest of them. Don't worry about it. That's totally normal. And then we'll move forward to Alice.
I'm just curious on this chart, net resources, 0 and 1, and then projected ending fund balance, 0 and 1. Can you explain that a little bit? I don't understand.
Let's see here. The net balance, you said? Do you have is there page numbers?
We have net resources right here at the bottom of the chart on the screen.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah, yeah. Go
Anyone?
for it.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at the one in, because I'm also on my phone, so you're talking the net resources at the bottom where it shows the 8,000 114, is that way? And then the projected beginning fund balance and end, is that what you're looking at, Al?
On my screen, when I see net resources, it has a 0 and a 1.
Let me see if
Yeah,
I
I'm
can
just
zoom
looking at
in.
this shared copy right now.
Well, and I'm trying to see. Oh, that's because I think this is a different one. Can you scroll up on this, Jessica? Because the one on the website that it has the right information there. Did you pull this from the S&A website under the administrative support costs?
I did.
That's interesting. No, you're right. I had the wrong one open. I had my S&A one. Yes. So now that I'm looking at the right one, again, don't try and do meetings on your phone, everyone. It does not bode well when you're trying to do that. So what those really are, so the net resources that you're looking at on there, Alice, is really, it's going to zero out because it's covering the expenses. And so it's really the amount that they get as the revenue is the fee allocation that is allocated to this base funding part. When you look at the expenses, that's just essentially the dollar figure they ended up spending. You can see a little bit, they talk a little bit about how that's kind of calculated, but pretty much we pay a flat fee roughly for the administrative support costs, and all of that goes into those units that are up above when you scroll up to those. And so the net resources is really the revenue minus the expenses. And because they're the same thing, it's 0 at that point.
Okay, I see. I was subtracting the wrong fields. So that I got you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Alrighty, great question, Alice. Yeah, thank you for bringing that to clarify. I saw Bjorn had a hand up, and thank you for joining us. Happy to see you. Go for it.
Hi, yeah, sorry, I'm late. Had a student teaching thing to deal with. I apologize if this has already been covered, but in the blue section of the admin fee form, under human resources, it says the Human Resources Department processes all student PAFs, employment benefit and insurance related services. What's a PAF?
That's a great question, and I'm trying to remember off the top of my head the acronym since Lacey is not here, Bjorn.
I can also look it up, see if there's anything.
Really, and so with the HR stuff, really what they're putting in there is all of the employment eligibility, all of their hours, all of the payroll type stuff. I can't remember what PAS specifically stands for.
Personnel action form, apparently.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, and so
Gotcha.
that's going to be
Thank
if there's different behavioral things or stuff that comes up on there. I mean, all the processing of the personnel things. It's all the system-wide stuff. Thank you, Alice.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. All right. Do we have any more questions for the this first one here, the admin costs? Alrighty. And Joey, do I need to motion to move to each item, or do I just sort of do that?
No, you go ahead and do that on your own. I mean, because there's not an action item. This is really you all reviewing. If there's no other discussion, you move on to the next one. Unless there's a request that someone wants so-and-so to come in, and then you all want to vote on that, that would be the only motion. So the one thing I'll say, because I do have to jump out now though, but as you are going through the ASCWU ones, because you all are going to, you may not see this unless you look to their base funding request. Student Academic Senate, when you review that, they're going to actually be, Amber's going to be asked to come in later this quarter to touch base because, and it doesn't articulate this necessarily what you read, but what they were funded for this base funding isn't necessarily what it's used for. And that change happened, but didn't go to the S&A committee officially. So that will go to you all. Not necessarily something you need to worry about as you're looking at the financial part of that. But otherwise, otherwise it's just the questions, the comments you all may have. And really you all can ask questions amongst yourselves, but it's really questions for those units. I know Brady is here, and so Brady can answer some of these. But if there's things you want officially answered to be sent to them, that's where you want to make a note of it. But otherwise, thank you all. And I'm sorry that I have to run away early, but let me know if I can help in any other way.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you so much, Joey. Alrighty. Yeah, I asked because I was like, I want to make sure you all are ready, but if we just move forward, then let's go ahead and move on to the Board of Directors report. Hey, what's up, Bjorn?
This is kind of a general one spread across all of the ASCWU departments. I noticed that most of them have like very small benefits balances, and I was just wondering what counts as benefits, because I didn't actually know that the board or any of the employees got benefits, whether anything fell under benefits, or if they have a breakdown of that.
Definitely, yeah. No, that's a good one. Brady, do you have any kind of insight to bring there?
I will say, from my knowledge, like I think what would be helpful is a definition of what our benefits are, because like we don't get like traditional, like 401k, health insurance, that type of benefits, because yeah, the only thing out of there is we do have our secretary supervisor, who is a full-time professional staff. This might be one of the interesting parts where an ASCW budget and a SLICE budget are converging. I don't want to speak as fact. This is probably a question for Amber. And I'm happy to either, I know Amber can come, but I'm also happy to ask her myself and get a reason. So if it's traditional benefits, I would imagine this is going towards our secretary supervisor, who is a full-time professional staff, and is covering the ASCW part of their job, because I know they do stuff for SLICE and for ASCW. ASCW is in a weird spot where we're on our own, but we're also, a lot of our pro staff are also part of SLICE. So it's a tricky balance, but I can ask Amber if that works and get back to you guys at the next meeting.
Definitely, yeah. We could also, when she comes in to just talk about the Academic Senate, we could also save it for then, whichever works, really. I think might be good to kind of keep it separate with the Board of Directors budget, Academic Senate budget, but kind of while she's here. So great, we'll make a note of that. Do we have any more comments, questions for the Board of Directors budget? Yeah, go for it, Bjorn.
This one, and I do apologize if this has been covered while I was out. They mentioned, well, the vacancy is obvious. Most of us have heard about that by now. I was wondering, because this form says 6 months, but because of the thing we authorized earlier this year, it becomes like a 1 month thing, eh? Like, so obviously the form can't be changed retroactively, but if they have I'm sorry, I am tired. If they have an absence lasting more than 1 month, do we have to like ask for that or something?
Brady, are you responding to Bjorn's question?
Yeah. From my understanding, when we passed that, I asked it what it applied to, and Joey and Lacey both said that it only applied to pro staff. And so our vacancy on the board, since it is not a full-time position and a student staff member, it would not fall under that category, only if we had a pro staff vacancy.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, okay, I had forgotten the pro staff caveat if I knew it at all. I was also kind of curious about the CERC bond extension, because I hadn't heard at all about that and kind of flew under my radar. How long is that bond extension for? And what other processes does it need to go through? Because they said it passed a student vote. What other processes does it need to go through before we get our CCI?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, I'll just, yeah, okay, sorry. So for that, once the students pass that bond extension, next it'll go to the Board of Trustees, and so the Board of Trustees are the only ones that need to extend that. Since it's just an extension of already student fee, just extending it by 20 years. So the fee isn't going down, or it's not changing what students will pay. It just extends it, instead of ending in 2034, it'll continue to, I believe, 2054. And so that just needs to be approved by the Board of Trustees.
Okay, that's a really good idea. Kudos to whoever thought of that. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, good stuff. Perfect. Do we have any other questions for the Board of Directors funding report? Alrighty, seeing none, I'll go ahead and have us move over to this ASCWU Senate funding report.
I just wanted to add that this is for Club Senate, and so while it says ASCW, I just wanted to remind everybody that it is not our student senate, it's what's the RSO now under SLICE. But from my understanding, the funding purposes are still the same. Just it's under SLICE and not student government anymore.
Totally, yeah, especially with academic senate. I appreciate the clarification. Perfect. And do we have any questions for this annual report? Any comments? Go for it, Bjorn.
I hate to take this so much of the spotlight. It's just on this page, the little asterisk next to registered clubs. I couldn't find a footnote to that asterisk. It may not be important at all. I was just curious.
Go for it, Alice.
I'm actually a club president. We're in the process of fully registering. My best guess on that is that the SLICE does have a differentiation between fully registered and still in the process of registering. And it looks like that asterisk is saying that they're only talking about the fully registered ones.
Okay, so does it sound like maybe it's just some clarification on the exact meeting would be something to add on to there then?
Yeah, there's probably a couple of us still. I know my club has been multiple times back and forth on our paperwork trying to get that revised. And until that's revised, we're not considered a full club.
Totally, yeah. So it sounds like, yeah, that asterisk, maybe just a little clarification or a footnote to kind of clarify that would be good. Yeah, thanks for that, Bjorn. Do we have any other comments on this report? Oh yeah, go for it, Sean.
So I can mirror what Alice said, as I'm a faculty representative of a student organization, as they've been going through policies, procedures, or bylaws with student organizations requesting the same kind of thing. So I think it's been across the board. So that's my assumption of what that would be as well.
Oh yeah, go for it, Bjorn.
It also just occurred to me, since there have been so many shuffles in the last couple of years, how does ESC fit into ICA? Because it mentions on that table, there's the ESC orgs with 152 registered club members, and I just wasn't sure if they received funds from ICA as well.
Yeah, go for it, Brady. And I have a little insight as well, but you'd have more of the club. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. No, so with the registered student organization restructuring this year, ESC counts as student organizations, but the funding purposes and that kind of stuff, I believe, still is all under ASCW and the director for multicultural affairs and equity. Backwards. And Judy, if you have anything else to add on.
Totally. I mean, you pretty much covered it. So basically those 8 organizations, I forget the exact wording for it, but essentially the ESC constitution and bylaws have like outlined, kind of what an ESC club is, promotes the general things are like promoting unity, belonging, things like that at Central. And so of all of the inter club associations, like all ESC clubs are ICA clubs. They just have another funding avenue through ESC. And I believe that's through student government. I'm like 90% sure. And so essentially they can request funding from ICA, they can request from ESC because they have that sort of additional source. That's essentially all it means. But they're also, because they're still ICA, they kind of put them into the general club categorization.
Okay, cool. Thank you. That makes sense.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, do we have any other questions, comments for this report? Alrighty, seeing none, I'll go ahead and have us move forward to the ASCWU ESC report. And do we have any questions, comments, concerns for this report? Go for it, Bjorn.
For what it's worth, this is more of a comment, but I was really pleased with the comprehensive calendar. That was really cool, and it seems like a really good way to. ICA had something similar to this too, but it was just really helpful to scroll through, and as I was scrolling, reflect on the magnitude of impact. I guess I had one quick question. Last year there was an issue with funding for a couple of the org's graduation ceremonies. Should we plan for that to allocate funds again this year, or was that settled last year?
I'll go ahead and have Brady cover that for you.
Sorry that I'm answering so much since it's ASCW. So this year, we're in a little bit of a middle ground. I don't want to say anything for definite. Right now, we are keeping all options open. So I definitely encourage us to be conscious of that. We might have a request to come through to additionally fund these. The board as a whole have also talked about helping pay for some of these. And then the most ideal situation is that the president, so Jim Wolpert, has briefly talked about finding administration funding sources for these, because one of the challenges with these graduations and having it come from student dollars is that if like we fund them for S&A or even just the board budget, that money can only be used for students. And oftentimes all these students are bringing their families. And so if it was an administration cost, that solution would be fixed. No matter what, we're going to find a funding solution. That's a conversation that has only briefly been mentioned in the middle of other larger conversations regarding the DEC and the CCI. So that is the goal. But I talked with Mariah a couple of days ago, and she's not sure where they're at that. So we're still wanting to keep open and plan for using S&A. That will probably come later in the year with an ask to fund this, but keep in mind we are also lobbying for that other one. So like I said, we're not saying no or yes to any possible route right now, because And it honestly might just be a mixture of different sources to make sure that these events happen. Does that answer your question? I realize it's kind of a wishy-washy answer, but that's kind of where we're at.
No, I understand. Funding's tight. Everything's got to be considered. Yeah, I totally get that.
I did want to note that a couple of the events that are listed here were canceled, specifically the professional drag show. It was on the day that was like that really intense storm and I think it was the power went out and that kind of thing. So the amateur drag show on the same day happened and then they canceled it. So that's why it says that it existed, but there isn't a date. So, or I assume that's why, but that's what happened. Do we have any more questions, comments, concerns for this report? Oh yeah, go for it, Brady.
Just kind of a general comment. I know that the exact club meetings aren't listed. And this is more of a retrospective thing, but just to let you all know, so far this year, I mean, all 8 organizations have meetings every week, but there's even a couple that are broaching like 100 people attending these meetings or more. Like literally there are rooms like they're filling up classrooms in St. Augustine packed, like the biggest ones. So I realize that's like more this year and not so much of a retrospective thing. But I just wanted to let you all know that like since COVID, I realized that club attendance has kind of gone down, but ESC has definitely been making a huge comeback and that there is a strong desire to be part of these organizations.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I will 100% back that. Yeah, no, they had to move from Black 105 to a Samuelson room that was approximately twice the size. So yeah, they've had a lot of really, really awesome support. So thank you for noting that, Brady. And I believe, I don't know how many organizations take attendance per meeting. I know last year that the Filipino American Student Association did do that. I don't know if this year's group is doing it, but yeah, worth noting, something to put in there. Yeah, go for it, Alice.
I do know we're moving towards having clubs take attendance every meeting on presence. So most clubs should be moving to that program. We were all trained in it.
Okay, yeah, that's great to know. New ICA process. Perfect. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully that takes hold and we can kind of incorporate that in their funding review next year. If not this one. Yeah, that'd be great. Cool. Do we have any more comments, questions, concerns for this report? Alrighty, seeing none, let's go ahead and move forward to ACWU Legislative Affairs. Alrighty, who wants to take a stab at the first comment or question? Yeah, go for it, Alice.
I just noticed this is the highest by a decent amount, the highest like surplus of funds here from any of these reports we've been looking at. One was in the negative on the net resources. That's just really good to see. That maybe we'll have more funds going forward for this group.
Definitely, yeah. It looks like with their explanation is just with limited travel from COVID and reduced student staffing. So
Okay, gotcha.
awesome.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, go for it, Brady.
Just kind of jump off that point, Alice, and like Judy mentioned out, it's because of COVID. This year, we will not see quite such a surplus, if any carryover, just because last year, all of their events were virtual because and Evelyn can talk better to this if they're like, but with Lobby Day, which is an event that happens down in Olympia, where that office will take students down there and teach them and walk them through meeting with state legislators and lobbying for student issues with them. Over COVID, that was all virtual attendance. And starting back this year, it's an in-person event. And so there's hotels now and buses and food costs that are all be factored in. So I wouldn't expect that to be, I would, unless if they start doing virtual again, that was probably the last year that there'd be that carryover, since most of their budget does go towards that and is being extremely used up this year.
That's a brilliant opportunity, though, getting to go and talk with legislatures. That's awesome.
For real, yeah. Shout out to Lobby Day and Evelyn for helping organize it. That's fantastic. Yeah. Perfect. With that, do we have any more comments, questions? Alrighty, seeing none, I'll go ahead and have us move over to a CWU Academic Senate. And this is the one that Amber is going to be coming and talking to us about. So grain of salt for this one, just because there will be some changes, as Dre mentioned. Perfect. And Brady, I know you have a little experience with the Academic Senate, so feel free to, anything you feel like you need to clarify, just go for it.
Yeah, thank you. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I can imagine what Amber is coming in to talk about, because Amber and I have had a lot of conversations about the funding for this area. But if there are any questions, then.
Yeah, go for it, Bjorn.
I know I should know this, but I'm drawing a kind of a blank and I'm a little uncertain here. And, public record anyway. The reason the funds are a little bit perhaps too low for 23 senators is because they were for Student Academic Senate, but then the year after switched, like the allocation remained the same, but swapped to Student Senate, which is a whole different beast. Is that correct?
Yes. So when this was funded 2 years ago, the senator positions, it was widely different structure. The senator positions were not paid positions. And then the year after this money was allocated, we switched to a model where the senators were paid. And so that just simply was not enough money, and money was never reallocated for it. That's one of the reasons that the Senate was reduced from 23 to 15 members, as you guys saw above, is to not only accommodate for the 10% reduction. That was the smaller aspect. The bigger part of that was that the allocation was simply not enough to sustain 23 student employees. I mean, really 25, because there's the two administrative assistant positions that are 10 hours a week each. And then even more so with this year is the senator positions were all at $15 an hour, 5 hours a week. And which was 51 cents above minimum wage at the time, and that was the same last year. But now, as you guys might know, as of January 1st, minimum wage went up to $15.74. So now the senators aren't being paid above minimum wage; they're being paid at the rate. And so, ideally, in the future, that would be raised to once again at least 51 cents above minimum wage. So that will just increase. I mean, the Senate budget almost as a whole is just for wages. So I imagine that's what Amber's coming in to talk about later, is like there needs to be a reallocation eventually. That's a conversation for a larger time, but now you've heard my rant, so I apologize.
All good, Brady. So the reallocation you're talking about, that would be during a base funded year, right?
Yeah, and I'll let Amber talk more about that at the end, because I will admit I don't know too much about that, but we just need, the Senate needs money to sustain until the next 4-year cycle, where we allocate money for all of the base funded areas. And so I believe we're in 2, right? We're in the second year of the 4-year cycle. So for the 3rd and the 4th year, the Senate just needs the funds to pay their employees and basic costs. So
Totally. Yep. Yeah. Just wanted to give people a bit of a timeline there. So in about 2 years, we'll go ahead and do that reallocation. And like you said, Amber will go in more into that next time. Perfect. Do we have any other questions, comments, concerns for this report? Alrighty. Seeing none, I'll go ahead and have us move over to the ACWU Student Life Report. Last one, almost there. Yeah, go for it, Bjorn.
Alice alluded to this earlier, and I really don't mean to come off as some kind of like deficit hawk, but I was wondering what the cause was behind the negative fund balance. I mean, I'm assuming that can be recouped, I guess, in future years. I was just kind of wondering what caused it, what some kind of circumstances.
Sorry, Judy, it's okay, I'll jump in here.
Yeah, go for it. You're good.
Okay. I'm going to be quite honest, I don't know. That's not something that we have discussed. I can ask about it, and like we said, we'll have Amber come in and eventually talk with us too. There was a variety of programming that happened last year, so it could have been for any of those. I'm just trying to look to see if there's anything I recall from last year. I mean, it definitely was a programming cost because that's where the expenses were, the negative was incurred. But I can find out for us.
That'd
Is
be
that
good.
with the, sorry,
Oh, you're good. Go for it. I was just saying that'd be great.
is that with the parentheses around the 3,400 mean? Does that mean that it's negative?
Yeah.
Okay, I see. Okay. It also looks like capital outlays was higher than projected. I don't know what a capital outlay is.
I don't know.
We'll find out.
I feel like some sort of word bank would be good for, for some of these reports, especially when the acronyms get involved. It's, yeah, can get super complicated. But yeah, great observations. I think this is great feedback. Do we have any more comments, questions, concerns? Alrighty, seeing none, I'll go ahead and let us kind of conclude this, and we'll just move forward and kind of go into how many we want to read for next time. So I'll kind of leave this as like a discussion portion, if you will. So how do we feel about like the workload, reading load, what have you, for this week? Do we feel like that was pretty good? Like, could you do more? Would you rather have less? Yeah, go for it, Alice.
I think this was great. More might be a little difficult with my workload right now.
Yeah, for sure. Totally get that. Yeah, I'm not going to do a motion or anything super formal. I think we'll just kind of go through here. I'll pull up the website to kind of outline for you. How about, so we've got, I'm trying to go by alphabet here, see how many are in that, and then kind of go from there. So starting with C, we have 4. And then let's see how many we have this week.
There's 33 more that we have to do. 33
Yeah,
total, that is.
right. And we did 7 here. Yeah, let me pull out my little calculator here. Very visual learner, what can I say? So we did 7 for this week. So assuming that we do that every week, that's approximately 5 weeks, 4.7. So do we want to keep, because that'd be 5, and we're meeting every other week now, so do we want to, considering, oh, sorry, I see multiple hands up, sorry, wrong screen. Alice, Brady, did you see which one?
I was just gonna say, I mean, if 7, if it breaks up weird, 7's not much more than 8, but if it just jumps up like 12 or something, that might be a little much, but like 7, 8, oh, that's, that works.
Okay, perfect, yeah, sounds good. Yeah, what's up, Brady?
We did 7 today, and we had a report section, and we're, barely at an hour, and we have the 2-hour meetings. Unless if we wanted to move, because if we're at 5 weeks, 5 meetings to get all these done, that's 10 weeks out, and that's not us getting done until spring quarter. So I would suggest we either do enough to fill our 2 hours every meeting, or switch to weekly meetings. And if it works better just to do 7 at a time, do an hour weekly meeting, but I realize that might not be ideal. But I know 2-hour-long meetings can be intense and long and tiresome, especially late in the afternoon. So I just think that we need to finish this by winter quarter, and make sure that we're just not having this drag into spring quarter. But that's all I have to say.
Totally, yeah, definitely. And to kind of translate for winter quarter, yeah, that's, I think it's 8 weeks at the end of this week, half of which are going to have meetings in them. So that would be about 4 meetings. So, but yeah, with that in mind, I'll go ahead and move forward to Sean, then Alice.
Alice, you can go first.
I was just gonna say, I completely agree that getting this done before, this quarter makes, a lot of sense. Weekly meetings is completely open for me. I do think weekly, like 1-hour meetings would be a little easier than 2-hour bi-weekly, but I'm able to be, I can be flexible with that. And that's all I got to say.
So all I was gonna say was I think you'll find, and Bjorn's like a grizzled veteran with this stuff at this point, but and Judy, I know you've done a little bit of this. I know we did 7. You're gonna find that there will be some especially that will go really quick. And some will be a little bit longer, but then also with Joey leading the charge. Judy's, you've been doing a great job, but with his, just even the short minutes he had, we'll be able to get through things with the knowledge he has and the experience he has in doing that. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be a weekly meeting, but I don't foresee any reason why we wouldn't be able to get all of these done by the winter quarter or whatever that timeline was. Bjorn, you can, pipe in as well, but I think we're going to be completely fine, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I do want to mention that there will be a bit of a change in leadership after this quarter as I am graduating. So that will be worth keeping in mind, right? As we'll have somebody sort of, I'm not sure if it'll be a re-election for chair or vice chair taking over chair re-election. I'm not entirely sure how that organization goes. But for the sake of saving the mental energy for that, it might be a good idea to just kind of wrap it up by winter quarter. But again, totally up to you guys. I'm just a tiebreaker. So just putting that out there. And I'll go ahead and, yeah, if anyone wants to, so do we want to keep with 7 or 8, like maybe probably 1 week we'll do 8 or something like that every other week, or do we want to switch over to weekly meetings for my bad, weekly meetings for an hour or bi-weekly meetings and fill up that 2 hours? How are we feeling? Yeah, go for it, Brady.
The only thing I want to mention is that if we did switch to weekly meetings, that wouldn't take effect until after our next meeting because of the fact that we have to declare a meeting. So no matter what, our next meeting is 2 weeks from now, so the 2nd. But I think honestly, it just is, we should just fill the time of the 2-hour meetings personally, then switch to bi-weekly since we've already set our calendar for the rest of the year, just to make less work on the administrative side. But I think we should shoot for 7, but it also seems like a lot of us are just doing a decent job of, as we're scrolling through this together, looking it over. So I don't know, when you shoot for 7 and you know, like this meeting where we still have an hour left, we move on to the one after and the one after until we elapse our time. But that's just my thoughts.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that you're like, we set out to read 7 before next meeting and then just kind of keep going until we fill up that second hour.
Yeah.
Perfect, just making sure. And then what's up, Bjorn?
For what it's worth, I usually prefer to be a little bit like prepared, so I might not be super comfortable doing them on the fly if I don't read them beforehand. Although that's only a single person's like mild objection. I can definitely do them on the fly if I need to. Kind of related to that, if anybody's doing them beforehand and is taking notes, do you know if we still have to turn those in at the end of the quarter or at the end of the year? Because I remember that was the case for the past 2 years. Sorry, I don't know if that's 100% relevant.
No, that's okay. No, it's all right. I think that might be a Joey question / Sean, do you know? That I'm not entirely sure because
Sorry, I had missed that question, Bjorn. Can you repeat it?
Just I know that the quadrennial year, and I think last year we were expected to submit our notes if we had taken any. Didn't seem like it was fully enforced or anything, but I don't know if that's going to be the case this year as well.
I'm not going to officially answer anything. I'll let Jessica do that maybe, but
Thanks, Sean.
I think
Yeah,
it's typically voluntary that you hand it in, but I don't think there's any kind of requirement behind it.
yeah, and I can make a note to check base with Joey on that because I'm not sure either. I mean, I am taking all the notes in the meeting, so anything that's said here, any questions that are raised, all of those are in the meeting notes. So I have all of that information, but I'll make a note to ask him about any personal notes that you guys had while you were reviewing these.
yeah, that'd be
Okay.
great. Yeah, wasn't sure based on past precedents. So
I would assume related to, similarly to other committee meetings and different things like that, they will request it. But it's, again, if you turn it in, great, but if you don't, it's fine too. I think it's just added on as, further attachments, so.
yeah, sounds good. So I'll check in with Joey on that one. So do we want to, so with those concerns in mind, does anyone, I don't know if we don't need to do a motion or anything super formal. So I think what we'll do is how about we plan to do 2 or 3 on the fly, not a whole nother set of 7, but just another set of 2 to 3 next meeting, and then see how we feel about it, kind of go from there, then make another decision, see if maybe we want to add and just keep going till the end of the hour or keep with the 2 to 3, that sort of thing. How does that sound?
Judy, can you just clarify how many you want them to actually review beforehand besides the 2 to 3 on the fly?
Definitely. So since we did 7 this week, I'm thinking 7 every week so that would be campus activities, from all the C's, and then that would be, sounds 4. Then the Diversity and Equity Center, Early Childhood Learning Center, and KCWU. So campus activities all the way down to KCWU. And then the 2 to 3 after that, which would be, if I remember correctly, Manistash was a longer one last year, things like that. So that's something to keep in mind. We can kind of jump around, maybe just do a different one or something. We'll figure that out when we get to it. But yeah.
Yeah, Monastash, we ended up calling Javier Cavazos in to talk, but that was also his first time filling one of those out. So it may be different this year.
Right, exactly. So I'll keep that in mind. I'll take a look at it over the next week, and yeah, and then if we come to next week's meeting, we just want to kind of keep that as its own thing, so that we can have, if we need to have them come in again, or just anything comes up, we can do that kind of as an individual case, is what I'm thinking. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and plan on going through, like, have campus activities through KCWU reviewed for next meeting. And then just kind of keep in mind Lion Rock, Manistash tentatively, and marching band. Yeah, cool. Does that sound all right? Go for it, Sean.
Just real quick, Bjorn, you might need to remind me too. I know we had marching band director talk to us. Was that just quadrennium or was that also last year?
I'm almost certain that was just quadrennium because I'm pretty sure Javier was the only one we called in for the reviews last year.
Okay. Yep.
That may have even been for the questionnaire rather than the funding report.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember them coming in, but yeah. Alrighty, cool. Do we have any questions, comments, concerns with that? Alrighty, great. So we'll just have the next 7 loaded up. That would be, yep, all that for next week. Feel free to email me, myself, the advisors, if you have any questions. Let's see. Just moving forward with the agenda. We'll go ahead and move on to our second call for public comment. Do we have any public comment today? See publicity.
Yes, actually. Just a note, I guess. Now I go to these meetings all the time because I love to hear what's going on. But next week, when you have KCWU up that you're going to discuss, you might consider also discussing the WSRN. They're 2 separate budgets, and I know that one is at the end of the list, but they are both run out of the radio station. And I'm just saying that in case, you know, if Tommy, the general manager, was going to listen in on the meeting next week, it might be nice if he could hear the conversation around both of those budgets at the same time. Just a suggestion.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like a plan. If Manistash ends up being sort of its own scenario, that would be a good way to kind of substitute. So I'll keep that in mind. Thank you. Yep. Do we have any more calls for public comment? Or not calls for, but public comments. Alrighty, seeing none, I am going to entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting. Alrighty, I see a motion from Bjorn. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Awesome, and we have a second by Alice. Tonight's meeting is adjourned at 6:04 p.m. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.